Good evening, folks. This is Deb, and this is probably going to be a little bit longer than a short take, but I urge you to please bear with me because we are talking about another what the fuck moment for the Democratic Party in this fight against fascism, okay? I'm going to screen share a few things for you to see because my mind is blown, all right? I'm going to start right here. "95 Democrats vote to honor far-right activist Charlie Kirk in House resolution." Do you need me to read that for you again? 95 Democrats vote to honor far-right activist Charlie Kirk in House resolution. So let me just say something about this, okay? We didn't honor Melissa Hortman and her husband who were killed in their homes in a political shooting. People who actually served in government. The Republicans recoiled at the thought of flying the flag at half-mast for former President Jimmy Carter. But we are going to honor a far-right influencer. That is all Charlie Kirk is. A spewer of hate speech and an influencer. That is who he is. He is not a government official, has never been a government official. So let's talk about it. The resolution was introduced by House Speaker Mike Johnson, who called Kirk, quote, a courageous American patriot, end quote, who was committed to, quote, civil discussion and debate, end quote. I'm going to show you how civil his discussion was, okay? It urges leaders at every level, government, education, media, and beyond, to stand united in unequivocal condemnation of political violence, regardless of their ideology, as if the Republican Party has done any of that. We have had children repeatedly annihilated in schools by angry men brandishing AR-15s in political distress over one issue or another, and we cannot take those guns off the streets. And yet they're urging us to stand united. 58 Democrats opposed the resolution, while 38 voted present and 22 did not vote. I commend those people, okay? By the way, the only person who had any courage in any of this was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And also, I'm sorry, not just her, but our friend there in Texas, who reminded everybody that 2 white people in the Democratic Party opposed this. The rest of the whiteys in the Democratic Party voted for this disgusting resolution. That's all I can call it. So here's one of my biggest disappointments of all. Democratic Representative Becca Balint of Vermont, a lesbian, told Axios after the meeting that the resolution is, quote, a very painful pill to swallow for all of those communities that Kirk has attacked over the years. But she would vote for it because, quote, we need to condemn political violence. Well, you know what? Charlie Kirk isn't the only person that has been killed in political violence. As I've said, Melissa Hortman and her husband were killed in their homes not too long ago in Minnesota. 2 other lawmakers, another lawmaker and his wife, were shot and wounded in their home in the same shooting. We did nothing then. The Republicans didn't even want to call anybody up and express their remorse or their pain for those fallen representatives. They did absolutely nothing for them, and the Democrats didn't push for anything either. Now, all of a sudden, though, we have to condemn this by elevating Charlie Kirk, a racist, a transphobe, a homophobe, a misogynist. We're going to elevate Charlie Kirk so that we can fight against the very things that his talk results in. That's really what we're talking about here. If Republicans were sincere about condemning political violence, they would bring a resolution that could get full bipartisan support. But I'm not taking the bait, Rebecca Ballant added. They took the bait. The Democratic Party took the bait. They took the bait. They took the bait by supporting this. Okay? And now in, Charlie Kirk's death, we're posthumously sanitizing what this man said in life. The rest of the LGBTQ members who supported this, Sarah McBride, Angie Craig, Eric Sorensen, Mark Takano, Sharice Davis, and Chris Pappas, shame on them. Shame on every single one of them. Robert Garcia, also LGBTQ. Richie Torres did not vote. I commend them. Mark Pocan and Julie Johnson voted present. I commend them. And Emily Randall voted no. I commend Emily Randall. They did the right thing. Jamie Raskin, oh, please, spare me. He voted for the resolution because, quote, it repeatedly condemns all political violence, extremism, and hatred in unequivocal terms. Does it really? We should overlook whatever surplus verbiage is contained in this resolution designed to make it too difficult for the Democrats to vote. Oh, stop it already. Just stop it already. We could condemn political violence without elevating Charlie Kirk, okay? So let's talk about some of Charlie Kirk's greatest hits, because there are many. Let's talk about some of that stuff while we're here. Charlie Kirk did say stoning gay people was the perfect law, and these other heinous quotes. Let's talk about some of this. While criticizing YouTuber Miss Rachel for quoting, "Love your neighbor" to defend celebrating Pride Month, Charlie Kirk quoted a Bible verse used to justify stoning gay people to death. Kirk called the stoning verse, quote, God's perfect law when it comes to sexual matters. He has also blamed transgender people for inflation. Okay? When someone told him that the two issues were unrelated, he said, they're the same in this aspect. When you believe that men can become women, why wouldn't you also believe that you could print wealth? People, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. Kirk blamed the so-called decline of American men on trans equality in an interview with failed college swimmer Riley Gaines. She's another story. We won't talk about her tonight, but she's another real gem. Saying people should have, quote, just took care of trans people. Quote, the way we used to take care of things in the 1950s and 60s. Now, independent journalist Erin Reed, who I follow, she's fantastic, notes that taking care of trans people included lobotomies, shock therapy, and involuntary institutionalization. Others, however, have interpreted it as advocating for lynchings or physical violence against trans people. By the way, let me just mention the thing that may not seem related to me, but proving that Charlie Kirk is not only ignorant, racist, homophobic, and a purveyor of hate, just took care of trans people. It's just taken care of trans people. I can't stand people who can't use the English language properly. Charlie Kirk declares that the transgender thing happened in America is a throbbing middle finger to God, and then proceeds to dead-name Leah Thomas and tell her, quote, you're an abomination to God, while the congregation applauds. So he goes into churches and talks like this. And all of these, of course, very Christian people just cheer him on because he's got a direct line to God. Well, you know what? I got to tell you something. I have at least 10 videos from actual real ordained ministers and priests who decry everything that this man says. There is not one God in any religion who would stand with Charlie Kirk on anything he says. I was brought up Catholic. 14 years of Catholic school. I was never taught any of this. Doctors treating trans patients need Nuremberg-style trial. April 2024. This is what he said in his podcast. Doctors who provide gender-affirming care should be prosecuted like the Nazis were after World War II. Quote, her daughter all of a sudden came home and said, I'm a boy. She said, what? And the whole assembly line, the conveyor belt was started to grind. They wanted to give her cross-sex hormones. They wanted to give her testosterone therapy. They wanted to cut off her breasts. They wanted to do all these sorts of things. And these doctors do this without any thought whatsoever. Yeah, sure. Here's the script. Here's the clinic. Go here. Go for surgery. These doctors need to be put in prison quickly. We need to have a Nuremberg-style trial for every gender-affirming clinic doctor. We need it immediately. This is the man that the Democratic Party saw fit to elevate in order to make a statement about political violence. He calls trans people a social contagion. I mean, this article, you people have to read it, okay? I know people don't like to read anymore, but you really need to read it. Okay? Now, transgender and LGBTQ people aren't the only people that Charlie Kirk has taken to task, okay? He has called Martin Luther King not a good guy and said that the passing of the Civil Rights Act in 1964 was a mistake. Okay? He believes that women should give up their desire to be anything but wives and mothers. They shouldn't get jobs. They shouldn't go to work. And people calling this man, I know at least one legislator who mentioned the fact that Charlie Kirk is a religious leader. Charlie Kirk is not a religious leader. Charlie Kirk is a right-wing influencer. He's like Joe Rogan or Alex Jones. That's who Charlie Kirk is. The only difference between them is that he works in an organization called Turning Point USA, which has been named a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center, and has also been taken to task by the Anti-Defamation League. He's a racist, okay? And he attracts racists to the groups by the way he talks. He has spent most of his adult life traveling around to colleges and universities, poisoning the minds of America's youth, creating a whole new generation of MAGAs to carry on our march to fascism. And yet the Democratic Party saw fit to condemn political violence, the very political violence that this man's talk results in, by elevating him on October 14th of this year. Ironically, or not ironically, on the day that Martin Luther King was given his Nobel Peace Prize, we are going to elevate Charlie Kirk, and 95 Democrats joined in with this, saying that they didn't want to take the bait by not doing it. They took the bait by doing it. The Republicans are laughing at them. The Democrats don't get it. Some of the Democrats don't get it. And I will tell you this right now, okay? I will vote Democrat up and down the ballot in 2026 because that is the only hope that we have to get out of this situation. But once that is over and we are safely away from the Republican Party, anyone who supported any of this needs to be primaried, and if it is the will of the people, be removed from office. I don't care if they're LGBTQ or not. This is unacceptable. I am insulted as a gay member of the Democratic Party by the LGBTQ people who took part in this travesty. That's what this is. We can condemn political violence in any number of ways. One of them would be by taking action, by changing the gun laws. That would be a real condemnation of political violence. And if Charlie Kirk were really conducting respectful discussions, the words that come out of his mouth would not be those words. He is not respectful. He is a hate speech monger, and he has been from the very beginning. Meanwhile, his little minion, Candace Owen, who also was part of Turning Point USA, has blamed women for every ill of society. A woman blaming other women for this. Because why? Well, because she's a conservative and she's a right-winger and she knows her place in society. And she's clearly not equal to men and has no interest in being equal to men. But some of us actually know that we are equal to men. And we have that right. That is our right. And they call Charlie Kirk a faith leader because he wants to take us back to biblical times. So that women have no rights. Do we understand that? This is the man that the Democrats saw fit to elevate in order to condemn political violence. A man whose words result in political violence. A man who has poisoned the minds of millions of college students. A man who held anti-vaccine meetings on college campuses at the height of COVID, resulting in super spreaders. A man who has lied about people. And what are we all cheering him on for? Because he didn't mind people disagreeing with him? Well, big woo. What a magnanimous human being he is. Charlie Kirk has done more harm than good in this country. He is not a civil rights leader. He is not a free speech leader. And I'd like to remind you that right now, because of Charlie Kirk, they just took Jimmy Kimmel off the air. Now they're targeting Rachel Maddow. They're targeting Seth Meyers. They're targeting Jimmy Fallon. They're targeting anyone who doesn't espouse right-wing ideology. But yet Charlie Kirk rose to prominence by taking advantage of the robust free speech we have in the United States. Free speech for thee, but not for me. The 95 Democrats who agreed to this joke and travesty need to hear from the American people. Now, Disney and Hulu heard from the American people on Jimmy Kimmel. It's time for these 95 what the fuck moment loser legislators to hear from us. And I will make sure that all 95 names are included in the body of this video, and I will also make sure they're posted on Facebook. And they need to hear from us, including my representative here in Massachusetts. They used to call her the smiling assassin. She's not the smiling assassin. She's a coward, is what she is. And by the way, in all of this, the most courageous person in all of this was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who spoke out and said she absolutely would not support this. And she said exactly why she would not support this. and Jasmine Crockett of Texas, who said she would not support this and noted that only 2 white Democrats opposed it. This, my friends, is not the Democrats. You know, the Democrats need to stop rising above, okay? They need to stop rising above and doing the right thing, whatever they think the right thing is. This was not the right thing. You're either going to fight fascism or you're not going to fight fascism, because this is being used now by the Republican Party to take that next step into fascism. Donald Trump does not give a shit about Charlie Kirk except as political capital, to shut down dissent from the left. Dissent defines democracy. That is a fact. And he is now trying to take away free speech using Charlie Kirk's death as the vehicle. So when the Democrats tell you they weren't going to fall for the bait, they fell for the bait. They took the bait. They were like big mouth bass. Their mouths couldn't get any bigger. The hook couldn't get any smaller. This is a what the fuck moment for the Democratic Party, in my opinion. And they need to hear from us. Every single one of them. The ones who stood against it need to be commended. The 95 who voted for this need to get their asses kicked. I will talk to you all later.